So we talked before about how being in a high stress environment could be the main reason why you're not losing fat or you cannot shed that fat off or that weight off. Mainly again because a high stress environment could lead to elevated cortisol levels, which leads to elevated insulin levels even in a fasted state, and that would hinder the fat loss process within the body. So we mentioned that a couple times and we figured that might be the reason why we're not losing fat or we cannot shed that weight off. And in this video, I just want to go over what can we do. I'm going to go over 10 things that we can do to help control, maybe lower cortisol a little bit throughout the day. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but if you end up doing 2 or 3 of those things, you're already ahead of the game. Number 1, walking, low intensity, steady state. And that's why we have a part of the 3-3-3 method program. And multiple studies have actually shown that a low intensity aerobic activity like walking reduces cortisol levels without triggering any additional stress hormone in the body like powerlifting or sprinting or high intensity activity does. And studies also shown that just 20 minutes walk in nature did reduce cortisol levels in saliva dramatically. So if you ever feel stressed out, just go for a walk. Number 2, sleep. Comes out surprise, easier said than done, but sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night is the single most powerful cortisol reset. Even research published in the Sleep Medicine Reviews confirms that sleep deprivation directly elevates cortisol the following day and disrupts the natural cortisol rhythm, which should be high in the morning and low at night. So chronic sleep debt keeps cortisol chronically elevated. Number 3, diaphragmatic breathing or deep box breathing. There was a study that was published in 2017 in Frontiers in Psychology that showed that just doing 20 cycles of deep box breathing did reduce cortisol in saliva samples and improvement in self-reported stress. Basically, you take a deep breath in, 4 seconds count, and then you hold it for 4 seconds and then breathe out for over 4-second count. You could do that when you're driving. You could do that anytime when you're sitting. It takes 5 minutes and it might help. I didn't believe in that either, but sometimes it could lead to better improvement in cortisol levels. Number 4, you probably already know that one, caffeine. You have to reduce your caffeine intake, especially in the afternoon. Caffeine directly stimulates cortisol release. And even there was a study that was published into the Psychosomatic Medicine that found that caffeine consumption does increase cortisol response to stress significantly. And if you're already stressed and you're taking in caffeine, you're not really helping your case there. So this is what I want you to do. When you wake up in the morning, your cortisol is already elevated. So allow yourself sometime an hour or 2 for your cortisol levels to get back to normal. And then you can have your first cup of coffee or your energy drink or whatever caffeine is. And again, try to limit caffeine or coffee in the afternoons, and hopefully that will be a good first step. Number 5, magnesium. Magnesium is the most researched supplements when it comes down to cortisol and stress reduction. And according to a review in the Journal of Neuropharmacology, it showed that magnesium deficiency, which is very common, by the way, in today's population, is linked directly to elevated cortisol and HPA axis overactivation. HPA is basically your body's primary response system to stress. So this is what we need to do. Magnesium glycinate before bed, it would be a good start, and it usually works for most people. Number 6, cold exposure. And it could be like a cold shower in the morning just for a couple minutes, or even you can put your face in a bowl of water with ice just for a few seconds at a time, again for a couple minutes. And even though cold exposure might cause a quick insulin spike at the time, however, research showed that cold exposure daily over time could help you regulate your cortisol level and have a lower baseline for your cortisol. So again, a couple minutes every day. If you're taking a shower in the morning, just put the cold water a little bit. If that's too much, again, you could use the water bowl method. Number 7 goes back to our human nature, social connection. And I know this one surprises a lot of people, but the numbers are strong. Studies have showed that just 15 minutes of a positive social interaction could blunt cortisol response in people. So I know we're always grinding, we're always working, we're always doing our projects, but protecting that family time and that social time for ourselves at least a little bit every day could go a long way. Number 8, another one goes without saying, sugars and processed food. Now at this point we know that cortisol and insulin, they both work hand in hand. When we introduce sugars or processed food to the body, causes insulin to go up, which triggers a cortisol response as the body works to regulate its glucose level. And even according to a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showing that a high glycemic diet is directly linked to elevated cortisol. So go back to the 3-3-3 method, the 3 meals a day, just keep it simple, good carbs, protein, and good fats. Number 9 is pretty simple. It's basically mindfulness or meditation, and I don't mean 2 hours meditation. You don't have to sit down for like 45 minutes trying to get it. No, just something as little as 10 minutes a day, or just sitting with yourself in silence, just being mindful. And there was multiple studies that were published onto the Health Psychology Review, over 45 of them, actually showing that just 10 minutes of mindfulness a day did lead to a huge reduction in cortisol level. Number 10, super important, always overlooked, and that's sunlight exposure in the morning. Morning sunlight exposure does regulate our cortisol awakening response, which is that first spike of cortisol within the first 30 to 60 minutes when you wake up. That's why you don't want to drink coffee during that time, because you don't want to interrupt that natural cycle. So getting 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight a day does help controlling the cortisol rhythm throughout the day, helps with cortisol dysregulation throughout the day. Even studies are showing that less exposure to sunlight is related to a higher stress markers. And it's free, it's available. It doesn't have to be a whole mission. Just walk outside, look up in the sky, stare in the sky for 10 minutes, and that's it. And there you have it, folks. That's everything I have. And if you're doing something different that helps with controlling stress or regulating stress or cortisol, please let me know. I would love to hear it. And if you try any of these, please let me know how it goes. And always remember, keep fitness simple.